You know, destiny is kind of a funny thing. A lot of people think that life is predetermined and there's nothing we can do to change it, but personally, I disagree. Thanks to Power Rangers Time Force, I'm of the belief that you can make your own destiny and change things for the better, or sadly, sometimes the worse. And once again, we get an example of this in Yu-Gi-Oh! GX. Huh, you guys really want me to keep doing these after last time? We're okay? We're good? Alright. This is the story of Edo Phoenix or Aster Phoenix. Let's get into it. We first meet Aster in the first episode of Season 2. We learn that he's a confident and powerful pro-level duelist who's won a lot of his matches. Everybody knows who he is. Well, except Jaden. In fact, when he introduces himself to Jaden, Jaden gets his name half right. Jaden, I love you so much, but dear God, that is bad. They have a duel, and it's a pretty interesting one. For one, Aster pulls out his cell phone in the middle of a duel. Yeah, try doing that with Duel Links. I'm sure everything's going to go perfectly fine with that. It's revealed that the person he's talking to is actually an old friend of his and wants him to throw the duel against Jaden. He doesn't fully get it, and he doesn't fully get Jaden. I mean, could you blame him? But he obliges. After the duel, it's even revealed that he just threw a bunch of cards together from the card shop, and that's what he dueled Jaden with. It adds a lot of intrigue to his character, making sure that we don't see what cards he really wants to use right away, building up the anticipation that much more. Next up, we learn that Aster is going to duel Zane in one of his first big pro matches. Zane seems calm and collected about it until he tries to save somebody from a masked figure. The vigilante runs away, and Aster and Zane have their duel. This time, however, Aster uses a different set of cards, a familiar set of cards, the Elemental Heroes. He fuses Avion and Burstinatrix to play Phoenix Enforcer. I do appreciate how the show explains that two of the same monsters can fuse into different monsters. It's cool to see, especially that the main cast can pick up on that. Well, everybody except Jaden. God, Jaden, you are so likable, but your brain is not functional. Aster utterly humiliates and defeats Zane, causing him to have a downward spiral throughout the season. Afterwards, Aster has an interview where he claims that he has the best heroes in his deck, and he wants to call out a so-called pretender. And in the dub, well, he does it in an interesting way. Just listen to it.
I won't tell you his name, but it rhymes with Schmaden Schmooky. Hear me, Schmaden? You know who you are, you card thief.
As stupid as that line is, it's nice to know that the English voice actor has so much fun saying it. Apparently it's one of his favorite lines. Speaking of which, Aster's voice actually does sound familiar. What other roles has this guy done? Oh, my old nemesis, Drew from Pokemon. Ugh. Let's move on. So completely disregarding that piece of filth, Aster comes back to Duel Academy to challenge Jaden. They have another really fun duel.
Ah! It burns! Ah!
But this is when we see Aster's true deck. After Jaden destroys a handful of Aster's elemental heroes, Aster brings out his true calling, the Destiny Heroes. Cards similar to the elemental heroes, but much darker in stature. This completely floors Jaden, but he's still willing to continue. And we learn a little bit about Aster's backstory. His father used to work for Industrial Illusions alongside Pegasus, and was the creator of the Destiny Heroes in order to please Aster as a child. Unfortunately, things don't always go as they're planned, and in the English version, Aster's father is kidnapped, and it completely destroys Aster as a kid and has shaped who he is today. While in the original Japanese version, his father, well, I'll let the expert handle this one.
You have a father, but your father's dead.
Yeah, I'm not surprised a lot of you really want me to talk about this, but yeah, this is 4Kids' doing, and it really softens Aster's motivation. Him trying to find his dad is not nearly as emotionally gripping as him dealing with his father's death. And in a way, it's kind of backwards, because in the original Japanese version, He's still a little unfriendly at times, but he's by no means as harsh as he is in the English version. They make him angrier when his dad is kidnapped, but not as angry as when his dad is dead. See, this doesn't make a whole lot of sense in some cases. Seriously, 4Kids, you're allowed to kill people. Man, now I really wonder what they would have done for Ace's death for One Piece. However, in a shocking twist, Aster actually beats Jaden. It's really cool to see in some cases because on the one hand, while Aster isn't the nicest guy, it's really cool to see that Jaden himself is not perfect. He's not invincible. And the rabbit hole he goes down after losing is really interesting, but we'll talk more about Jaden another day, I hope. It's especially all the more jarring to see that while Jaden has a happy, carefree disposition, Aster's a lot colder and really doesn't care for how Jaden treats his monsters and his philosophy on life. A handful of episodes later, we see Aster talking to his manager and old friend Sartorius. It's been revealed that the two have known each other since they were younger, and that they actually are friends, which makes things a little more interesting as time progresses. But he gets recruited to come back to Duel Academy and duel against Alexis in an effort to tear down the Slife Red Dorm by Bonaparte. He wants no part of it, but Sartorius insists, and once Aster returns, he runs into Princeton, who claims he's part of Sartorius' club. But oddly enough, Aster has no idea what Princeton is talking about. Isn't that funny? Aster is all set to duel Alexis and steal Jaden's catchphrase.
Get your game on!
When, lo and behold, Jaden appears.
Hey, that's my line!
I'd like to think that had Aster never said get your game on, Jaden would not have been there as fast. He just started bolting the second he heard copyright. Jaden takes Alexis's place in the duel, and it's Jaden versus Aster 3. And honestly, this is a duel that I never have talked about all that much, but I've always enjoyed it. You see Jaden deal with his Neo-Spacian cards, and the fact that he's still getting used to them, and still making mistakes, especially in regard to the cards returning to his deck, is pretty cool to see. And you actually see that he's starting to warm up to Aster. Aster starts to realize that his Destiny heroes were made for fun, and they should be used for good, not to seek out revenge. Heck, there's even a moment where Jaden gives Aster props, and for once Aster actually appreciates and accepts it. Aster loses, but he also realizes that Jaden might be even more powerful than Destiny. And Jaden even gives him some props, saying that even though the first duel didn't count, they're tied, so they need to have a rematch, which Aster agrees to. It never happens, but it's the thought that counts. He also claims to have grown fond of Duel Academy and wants to stay. This is what's going to keep him around for a good bit as the season progresses. Throughout a good chunk of the filler, we see Aster hanging around Jaden and friends. He's still not the nicest guy, but he has grown a good bit, and he's involved more than you would think even if they're just filler episodes. He gives some good exposition on Sartorius and some of his cronies, and just the effects Sartorius has on people. For example, he even notices that Jaden's going up against Sartorius' lawyer, because I guess all evil masterminds need one. You know, my mom really wanted me to be a lawyer at some point, but had she said that I could still play Yu-Gi-Oh! While doing it, I might have taken her up on the offer. Aster finally confronts Sartorius on what the heck's been going on, and he's not getting very clear answers. As he's storming out though, Sartorius has tears in his eyes begging for Aster's help. It really is kind of a heartbreaking scene because while we all know Sartorius isn't exactly doing the right thing, him reaching out to Aster for help really does tug at you at points. Speaking of Sartorius' effect on people, Aster's the first person to notice the effect that he's having on Bastion. Bastion's self-esteem, Bastion's lack of confidence, and a sense of belonging. And he admits that while Bastion might be able to beat Princeton to save him and Alexis, that he might not want to do that. For not necessarily being friends, he did understand Bastion a lot more than Jaden and the others did, which I can't really tell if that makes me like Aster more or makes me like Jaden and friends less, but that's what I get for Bastion being one of my favorite characters, honestly. During the field trip, though, Aster and Jaden end up taking on Serena, Sartorius' sister, in a double duel with herself also, because people can do that. They have to learn to work together, and it's a good contrast of styles. Like I said, Jaden being very carefree, and Aster being very serious about what he has to do. But they learn to work much better together than they did in the beginning, and they win, realizing that they're both the duelists of prophecy. They're both duelists who can change their destiny. Not to mention, his reaction to Solomon Moto being a fan of his is actually pretty hilarious.
I follow professional dueling. I'm a big fan.
Who knew I had such old fans?
Like who?
When Zane returns to Duel Academy, we get some banter between, well, actually not between the two of them. It's mainly just Aster talking trash and Zane ignoring him. Too bad we never got a rematch between the two. Oh well. Oh, by the way, remember that time ago where I said Aster was attacking people? Well, he wasn't doing it for giggles. He was actually looking for a specific hero card. That's right, he was looking for the card that was stolen from his father. And who happens to have that card? His adoptive father, the D. Yeah, that's his name. His name is literally the D. And it leads to a lot of jokes that have made the show live on in infamy.
Wow, I've always wanted to see the D in action.
Or fummy, or never mind. Don't feel too bad, GX. I hear Hiromu Takahashi has a move called the D2. He makes people submit to the D. Oh god, never mind. Let's move on. After watching the D duel, Aster decides that enough is enough. He goes after him in a, oh right, I forgot to mention. Aster usually gets places in the most extreme methods, jumping out of planes, helicopters, using snowboards to get down there. I don't know who decided this was an idea, but, well, I'm not bored by it. He finds the D and challenges him to a duel, but also questions why he would steal the card and take Aster in at the same time. And the D explains that he would never be suspected of killing Aster's father if he's the one who took him in. Kind of reminding me of Yusuke's backstory from Persona 5. They have a duel and Aster goes up against his father's biggest creation, Destiny Hero Plasma. And we learn that Plasma is kind of a twisted card, because not only does it take monsters, but it also seems to take defeated opponents. Human opponents. One namely being Aster's dad. This is super creepy and admittedly very well done. You see the pain Aster goes through when he sees his father like this. You feel the emotion. You see the tears in his eyes. It makes things all the more compelling. It's heartbreaking. And when Aster eventually has to do what he does and puts Plasma and the D down, you also see that his letting go of his father is hurting him, but it's something he has to do. As he takes Destiny Hero Plasma for himself, Aster notices the Light of Destruction has also left the card, seemingly turning it back into the good side. He confronts the brainwashed Sartorius and even has the key to the satellite that was given to him by Sartorius when he temporarily broke out of the brainwashing, and he duels. It's hard because you see just how much he cares about Sartorius, but he has to keep dueling, and just as it seems like he's about to lose, the good Sartorius and him stand together and support each other for a very good turn. It's a really cool duel, and sadly it ends with Aster losing. And he turns white, well, whiter than usual. Jaden's even willing to sacrifice his own key and the rest of the planet to save Aster. Not the smartest move, but once again, that's Jaden. We'll get to him another day. Fortunately, Sartorius' plan is foiled thanks to Hassleberry saving Aster and turning into a giant dinosaur, because he can do that. At the start of Season 3, we all believe that Aster has gone back to the pros, but he returns when he sees that Jesse Anderson has the Crystal Beast cards, and while he explains as to what they are, we also learn that he is Pegasus's fourth favorite duelist, behind Yugi and Kaiba and Joey, and right above Jesse. It's a pretty small scene, but I do like how he talks with Hassleberry and Princeton just about all the Crystal Beast cards. He even gives Princeton a hard time for not exactly giving him the best greeting when he shows up. He's one of the duelists who works alongside Professor Eisenstein, who tries to get the Rainbow Dragon card to Jesse so everyone can get home. But when the rest of the gang gets sucked back into the alternate dimension, he and Zane decide to go along, and we see a bit of Aster's more tsundere tendencies. He's a bit more caring about the gang than Zane, but we'll still remark that he's still not that interested, which it's kind of a funny thing. Like I talked about before with Zane, he duels a lot of the evil general monsters, defeats them, and helps the rest of the gang reunite to stop the Supreme King. Aster then meets Echo, Adrian's old friend, and he tries to understand her a bit. He teases her for having a crush on Adrian and even admits that he doesn't fully understand her because she's starting to go a bit crazy for him. But he duels against Adrian in his Exodia deck. It's a really cool duel, and even with us knowing that Aster's probably going to lose, he still finds ways of surviving and doing something cooler each and every turn. But he's also very worried about Echo, somebody who he's barely met, who he barely acknowledges at times. He's worried for her safety. That's the type of person Aster is. Even with the bad stuff he does in the beginning, he's also an incredibly loyal and loving person. Sadly, this is one of the duels that love and friendship just does not help our hero win. Aster loses to Adrian, but right before the duel ends and Adrian tries to kill all of them, Aster gets in between everybody, and when they ask him what he's doing, Aster says something very interesting. That's right, Aster called them his friends. For the longest time, Aster never called Jaden and the others his friends. He would always say, "Jaden, your friends need you. Jaden, your friend is in trouble." But he admits that he's grown to care about them, and that's why he's willing to sacrifice himself and get sent to the stars. He buys them enough time to escape, and him and Destiny Hero Plasma go out swinging and go out with a bang. Fortunately, Aster gets revived alongside everyone else in Season 4. Well, except Viper, and Adrian, and Echo, and, well, probably a lot of other people. Good lord, Season 3 was dark. Dr. Crowler begs Aster to take Chaz under his wing to see what it's like as a pro duelist, and we see just how hard Aster works to be a pro duelist. It's not all sunshine and rainbows. It involves a lot of running around and hard work, and while Aster's used to it, his protege Princeton is not so far. And they go everywhere. They go to London, and Paris, and Tokyo, America, Scotland, and Canada, and Mexico. Alright, I'm gonna stop now. I'm sorry, I don't know how many wrestling fans watch these videos. I'll stop. As Princeton gets better, he makes a crucial mistake, and one of the last Destiny Hero cards is stolen, and it results in Aster getting fired from the Pro Leagues, and Aster firing Princeton as his assistant. The thing is, though, the duel Princeton had to save Aster's job was actually a rigged loss. Princeton lost on purpose. The reason for this is because a man named Mike wanted to ruin Aster's reputation and bring Princeton up as a top pro duelist instead. But thanks to Princeton's quick thinking and Jaden's help, that gets ruined, and the duel between Aster and Princeton actually goes off much smoother after that. It does end up with Aster losing, and a lot of people have a problem with this, but frankly, I disagree. Like I've said before, this duel was about proving that Princeton did belong in the pro leagues. Aster lost very few duels throughout the series, so him losing one more to a duelist who is finally starting to make his mark was not a bad thing in my opinion. Aster claims that they're going to have a rematch on the pro circuit, but also encourages Princeton to show the crowd some love. We also learned that the reason Aster didn't want to lose initially was because Mike wanted to buy and shut down an orphanage that Aster had funded. Considering everything Aster had been through with his father, it makes all the sense in the world that he would want to give kids a good home. Aster only has one story in Tag Force 2, and rather than being focused on revenge, it's more focused on you and him helping bring back Sartorius. It's a really cool story where you see Aster grow to trust and accept you more, and at the end of the story, he even claims that you are his partner and you have to have his back, while also being embarrassed by everybody else and blushing a good bit. And I'm sure a lot of people who have crushes on Aster wanted to see that. So that's Aster Phoenix. Did the dub help things? Not really. Would it have been a lot more impactful to have the original source material, the original Japanese version as his backstory? Absolutely. But is Aster still a great character? Yeah. In fact, now that I'm older, I've really grown to appreciate his story more. He had so much taken away from him, and he grew up closed off from other people. He grew up being pretty distrustful towards people. But once you get to know the guy and you become his friend, you realize just how loyal he is. I wish we'd gotten to see a couple more high-profile duels, but like I said, his win-loss record was very, very good. He grew to be a person who loved everybody around him. He called people his friends, and he never gave up on them. Not only that, but he also had some surprisingly hilarious lines in the dub, and yeah, the dub's not always perfect, but I'm never bored by it, so in some cases they can't have butchered him that badly. He kind of reminds me of Shun from the original Bakugan series, someone who lost a parent and wants to take it out on everybody, but is saved by the right people and grows to be incredibly thankful to them for everything. So throughout everything, I think Aster Phoenix is a pretty damn good character. And yeah, I know he shows up in Yu-Gi-Oh! Arc V, Arc 5, whatever the hell you want to call it, but I'll get to that another day with some of the other characters who make cameos in that. But what do you guys think of Aster Phoenix, or Edo Phoenix? Do you think he was great? Do you think it was horrible? Is there anything about the dub that actually was better than the sub for his character? Just let me know. Let me know what you guys think. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, go check out some of our other videos, and we'll see you guys next time. This has been Alex from Anime Egotists saying, I'm not going to tell you what the next Yu-Gi-Oh! Video is going to be, but it rhymes with Schmerled, Schmampy, and Schmips. You hear me, Schmerled?